Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J.
No eye
Live from
bookers
the
or
den
anything?
of Legacy
Check it.
Internet
We gotta
Radio.
check you now.
Be down with us tonight. Call us at 804-402-2893 is the number to dial to be a part of the show and the discussion. We got a lot to move on. We're going to move away from Ebola now. We're going to move to another story that we have been following here since August 9th, the day that Darren Wilson shot and killed Mike Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. There's been some updates to the story that have been come to light, I should say, over the weekend. Forensic tests, I'm getting this from CNN, by the way. Forensic tests have found that blood of Michael Brown on the gun, uniform, and police cruiser belonging to Officer Darren Wilson. Of course, he fatally shot the teen. The revelation provided by unnamed government official familiar with the federal civil rights investigation marked the first public account of Wilson's testimony to investigators. It could potentially serve as exculpatory evidence, or at the very least used by Wilson's supporters to back the officer's account of what transpired on Canfield Drive on August 9th. Immediately drew suspicion and anger from activists who pretend to an ominous reaction from Brown supporters. Quote, "This is clearly constructed and contrived to justify the killing of Mike Brown." This is what Ferguson resident Pam Peters told CNN affiliate, local CNN affiliate. And there's another quote here. Let me get to this quote. "If Mike Brown struggled with this officer, this still does not justify why this child is not alive. If this young man did this and struggled, that means he got free. And then witnesses said he turned around with his hands up. This kid should be alive. There was speculation probably about a week ago that Wilson would not be indicted and that he is going to get off. People are more angry now. The more anger now than when the incident actually happened." Toyana, jump in here again. I'm probably going to have you going first a lot tonight, because particularly on stories that we've talked about in the past, we'll get SY, in my opinion, on the update here momentarily, but give you an opportunity holistically to share your thoughts and your feelings about the incident that happened in Ferguson on August 9th of this year.
It bothers me that every time a situation happens with the death of an African-American male, they always want to put the word struggle. And I don't understand why it has to be attached to a reason for death. And what I mean by that is that, nobody has the right to take a life. However, I do understand that it is in their code, but police officers are supposed to protect and serve. There's always a story, two sides of a story. But I just find it interesting, the increase of African-American men, and now just period, anybody minority, the police are really taking charge over anything. And I don't know if it's because of panic. I don't know, is it because of inferiority? I don't know what it's going to take for us to get our point across that this is not right and we can't go for this anymore. So am I anywhere close to what y'all talked about last time, as far as just, because I don't have any tolerance for it anymore.
No, I mean, whether we talked about it or not, if it's your opinion, it's certainly welcome here. I think what you speak to about the struggle is spot on. I mean, I had an article that I had read a while ago that talked about how black victims and white suspects are reported in the media. I'll give you a perfect example. Ohio man was carrying a variable pump air rifle, not a toy, when cops killed him. This is the victim. Ohio shooting suspect TJ Lane described as a fine person. This is a suspect. Black victim, deputy killed Marine out of fear for children's safety. Victim. You know what I mean? So there's a difference between, I know a lot of our white brothers and sisters don't see this because they're not affected by it. And I think that,
Absolutely.
I think that that's fair. It's fair that they're not affected by it, but the reality is they're not affected by it. And so when, particularly the ones that are fair-minded, which I would guess is most of them, you got to listen if you purport to be someone that's fair-minded, when these types of things come up, You can't turn a blind eye when you see Ohio man carrying variable pump air rifle, not a toy, when cops killed him. You know they talking about the kid that got killed in Walmart.
Yeah.
They saw the video where they claimed that they called him out, and they didn't actually call him out because he didn't respond. You saw it on the video, and they decided not to charge those police. But they want to talk about how he's carrying a pump air rifle. So it's in the store. It's in Walmart. It's off the shelf, which means it's not loaded anyway. But you want to shoot him in the back?
But that's what bothers me. Why, and when I'm reading this, it's always a struggle occurred. It's always someone is going to the gun. And I think that's just been a continuous excuse that is easy to put in your criminal report. Is easy to justify why you thought of probable cause to pull out your gun and shoot this person because, I felt threatened. But if the victim doesn't have a gun, if the victim is adherent to what you're saying, then there's no justifiable reason. You can shoot anybody in other parts of the body if you need to make that point without killing them.
The other thing, Toyana, is they being the media, they being the police departments that are trying to get out of being in trouble, they always seem to sully the name of the victim even before the name of the shooter, in this case, or in many cases, the officer, even comes out. Remember how they talked about Mike Brown? How they said he was bullying the police, how he was bullying the store clerk and all of that kind of stuff. And then it came out that was refuted. He wasn't bullying. He actually paid for what he went in the store for, and the guy was giving him grief, and he was responding to the guy giving him grief. I had a discussion with what I believe to be a fair-minded white person, a friend of mine. And, his perspective was, if you're not out there acting stupid, then these kinds of things don't come to your door. Well, you know what, friend? That's not always true, because yours truly, Marcus J., has been profiled. I tell the story all the time. I was profiled right here in the studio where I own a radio station. I was profiled here by a neighbor, someone that works here. So what if that was a police officer? What if that was someone who had a gun, who saw me and thought that I was doing something that I wasn't supposed to be doing?
And you know what, Marcus? I agree with you that I think it's profile, but I think it's kind of still racial bullying as well. I think it's that cheap undercut. Let me see what I can do to push that button, or to you you may be calm, but I'm going to consider it being stupid or acting, outlandish. And I think that's just another way of individuals, and I'm not going to play the race card, but I think, certain minorities, we know when we're being tested. We know when we've been looked a different way. We know when we're being respond a different way.
Right.
We know that. I mean, it's no rocket scientist. You don't have to be black or white or male, female. If you're not being treated right, you know. So what makes us think that the person who's doing that to you does not know that they're doing it to you?
Well, I think that's possible. But I also think that we're so brainwashed, and that means when I say we, I mean we as black people are brainwashed against our own, and so are, the others. And when I say the others, I don't just mean white folk. I don't just mean, Asians or blacks or Spanish. I think a lot of people are have negative thoughts towards folks in this country that are in lesser numbers. I don't like to use the word minority because worldwide we outnumber everybody, as far as Africans. But, in this country, there's a smaller amount of us. And so when you see the fact that you turn on the evening news and you see, mostly white faces giving you the news, or if you go to work, you see mostly white faces in management positions. You turn on the television, most of your favorite TV shows have white faces. See, I think that's the piece that our white brothers and sisters just don't understand. You can't possibly understand what it's like to live in a whitewashed world because your world is white. And that's not, I'm not saying that to be a bigot or anything, because I love whoever loves me. And it doesn't matter to me what color you are. I love who loves me. I'm more partial to my own because that's just how I roll. But if you show me love, then I'm going to show you love. Because every brother ain't your brother, and every white person ain't your enemy. But I think those folks need to be a little bit more sensitive when we come back and we say, all right, we seen Pookie on the news wilding out, but you know what? You know me. You know Marcus J. You know I'm not wilding out. You know I go to work every single day. You know I raise my daughter. You know that I own a business. So why do you think that Pookie is a representative for black men, but you know me and I'm not? That's what really, really bothers me about this kind of stuff. And when you look to kind of put a bow on this piece here, we talk about Mike Brown, his blood is in the car, his blood is on the uniform. All that may be true. I'm not going to dispute any of that. But what I will dispute, because I don't know, so that's why I'm not going to dispute it. Whether it is or it isn't, the fact that he took 2 shots to his head, you know what I'm saying, from a distance with his hands up, does not justify him being killed. And I think at minimum he needs to be indicted, Darren Wilson that is, so that a jury of his peers could look at this case completely and decide what exactly happened that day.
But when you
no indictment,
that I know that to me is crazy, because everyone knows whether you are for guns or not, afraid of them or love them. And whether you watch the New Jack City movie to now, whatever that's going on your television screen, but everybody understands that when somebody shoots you or aims at your head, that means execution style.
That's a kill shot.
I mean, that to me is way worse than aiming at someone's heart.
Yeah.
So you cannot justifiably say I was protecting or I was serving, because you could have still protected and served by wounding him, getting him to justice, to let the justice system decide.
Well, that's the one thing
punishment.
I talk to law enforcement people about this, and they're not trained to wound you. They're trained to kill you. If they have to pull their gun out, they're going to kill you. That's, shoot them in the leg. That's TV. That's movies. That's not real. And I've got one friend of mine who I grew up with in childhood is a member of the NYPD. I've got another friend who I met in college who's a member of the NYPD. I've got a cousin who's a member of the Jersey City Police Department, and I got a friend of mine who is in law enforcement in the Washington D.C. area. I've spoken to each of them. You know what I mean? At different times, but I've spoken to each of them, and they all come from, that's what they're trained to do. They're not trained to shoot you in the leg to stop you. They're trained to shoot you in the center mass, which, is from
center mass,
center
mass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course. Center and one of those shots from Mike Brown, they said came from an elevated position, which means he was probably on the ground when he got that last, what they say is kill shot, and there are witnesses who saw that he had his hands up when he got shot. So you can tell me all you want about how there was a struggle in the car. If they struggled and he got away and he's running away, what are you going to do? You're going to drop him? That's also from the movies. You're going to drop him? And I've did 2 stories on this show, one of which was a young white girl who was in a car who was driving crazy, running over all kinds of stuff, and the police did nothing to this girl but eventually wait for her tires to get blown out from when they put the little thing down on the ground, and they took her into custody. There was no gunshots. There was nothing. I had another story that I did of a white man, middle-aged, who had a gun, who was waving it on a golf course, and it took those people an hour. And you know what they did? They shot him in the leg. They shot him in the leg after an hour. So, so I, as I'm remembering this story, I'm like, well, you know what? They can do that.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And that to me is always been a fine line, because being a criminal justice major myself, I was definitely taught that probable cause. But when you do probable cause, you have to also have justifiable reason. And even if you were to pull out your gun, Marcus, and I'm not a cop, but when I studied, they let it be known that the cop still has control over the situation unless he or she feels threatened. You have to feel threatened if there is a weapon in sight.
Right.
Was there a weapon in sight?
I don't know that there was a weapon in sight.
They keep saying it's just a struggle. And to me, it's always been easy for us to say, oh, well, little Johnny's gone. Unfortunately, had he not struggled, he would not have been in the situation that he's in. And I definitely disagree with that. You know, my heart goes out to the family because unfortunately we'll never know the story. I wasn't there personally. And unfortunately, we have to rely on the media to give us you know, that the true facts, if it is true facts or not. But that's just a challenge right now.
Who knows if we'll ever get them. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. I'm looking at an article that I saw on the Huffington Post back in August, right after Mike Brown was killed. And basically, it alluded to what I talked about a minute ago: the differences between how the media portrays white victims and white suspects and black media and black. I'm sorry, let me back up. White suspects and black victims. I'm sorry. Just giving you the quick headlines on these. I won't get into the specifics, but I'm gonna just read this to you so that you can see. This is the Huffington Post. This isn't me. White suspect, Alabama suspect, brilliant but social misfit. Black victim. Montgomery's latest homicide victim had history of narcotics abuse tangles with the law. One's a suspect. He's brilliant and social misfit. The victim, got to talk about his history. Another one, white suspect. Son in Staten Island murders was brilliant, athletic, but his demons were the death of his parents. This is how the Staten Island Advance covered the case of Eric Bellucci, a mentally ill New York man who allegedly killed his parents. Black victim. Trayvon Martin was suspended three times from school. White suspect, Oregon school shooting suspect, fascinated with guns but was devoted Mormon. Black victim, police slain Lakeland teen had been shot before death penalty, drug related. I mean, I ain't tripping, man. This is the media putting it out there like that. So we'll see what happens in Ferguson, and we'll see if Darren Wilson is charged. My gut tells me he's not, and I just hope they don't burn down the city of Ferguson, which my guess is they probably will. Ain't no half stepping with Marcus J. Live from the Den. Legacy Internet Radio, flagship show. Legacy Internet Radio. You can hear us every single week on TuneIn, and you can hear us on demand on YouTube. Call us, be part of the show at 804-402-2893 is the number to dial. I'm getting this one from rawstory.com, this next one. Raw Story has become one of my new places to go to for news. This one, wow, this one is tough. A Fox News guest, he's a priest. He asked the question. Toyana, I want you on this one first. How can we baptize kids in same-sex families if the parents are sinners? That's the question. Fox News contributor Father Jonathan Morris on Sunday suggested that baptizing the children of same-sex couple would be difficult because the parents would be raising them in sin. Last week, bishops rejected a proposal backed by Pope Francis that called on the church to officially accept and value homosexuals. But the bishops did agree to include language that said discrimination against LGBT people was to be, quote, avoided. Midterm report made it sound like by welcoming, we're changing the doctrine, Morris explained in a Sunday appearance on Fox and Friends. Quote, and what does that mean to welcome? Should we welcome? Of course, we should welcome everyone. I always look at my church when there's a baby crying and people are looking back. Oh, get your baby in order. The baby is the only innocent voice in the whole church. We are all sinners, of course, and we should find creative ways to welcome and not change the Bible. You know, we actually believe in the Bible. It's difficult, and I think we're going to have to make decisions next year on what that means, real practical situations. A gay couple comes in with their child, for example, to baptize the child. Should the child be baptized? Of course, but every couple, gay, straight, when they say we're baptizing our child, they're saying we're going to raise them in the Catholic faith. And so as a priest, as a minister, how do you deal with that? What does that exactly mean? So let's talk about it. Grab your mic.
Oh my God. All right. That's just, okay. And I'm sorry. I'm not trying to, hold dead mic time. But everybody has the right to be baptized. Your parents should not be the reason for you to be baptized or not. That's something that I know, not being a pastor or anything, but I know that that's what we're supposed to do. Have your parents to be same sex or gay or tray and bi, whatever they want to do. I don't think that the child should be jeopardized. And I don't see it being a smear to the church. Now, how you run your house is how you run your house. How a pastor runs his house and his church is the same way. So, Marcus, if a pastor wants to do that in his house and he's okay with that, then that's what he or she should be able to do. But I'm not going to go against the ones that are totally against that. I think that's a calling that God has sent them to do. And obviously they have their own provisions in Reich, whether they feel comfortable to do that or not. Again, that's a huge responsibility. Your job is to lead souls to salvation. Your job is supposed to be to tell, the congregation about, the religion of practice. And I think that we have to get beside ourselves to understand that is what you were called to do. And, I hate to throw out the old bracelet, what would Jesus do moment. But, let's throw that out there. What would Jesus do? Will Jesus in the modern time and era right now burn down the whole earth?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm not a Christian person, but I was raised one. And my understanding of Jesus is that he hung out with the lowest level of people. Jesus would have been the dude hanging out Jesus would have been the dude hanging in the hood. Because I'll be honest with you, they don't use bread and water to feed the hood in the West End of Richmond.
No.
They do that in Churchill. You know what I'm saying? For my family back in Jersey City, if you grew up in Duncan and you grew up, Curry Woods and Booker T, that's where Jesus would have been at. He wouldn't have been in the Heights. You see what I'm saying?
That's what I'm absolutely. And so if Jesus was here today, 2014.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely, he would probably have a hard.
He would have been in
job.
South Central. He would not.
Absolutely.
He wouldn't have been hanging out in Beverly Hills. That's why I jump in here. What's your thoughts when you hear this one?
Man, that's a tricky one. That really is a tricky one, and Toyana's right.
I think she
your
nailed
job.
it. Actually, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, their job
you.
is to, like she said, lead us all to salvation. And if you do break out the bracelet and you want to do what Jesus would do, then you would go ahead and do that.
Right.
And you would stop judging. That's not your job. All right? So you would stop judging. You would do that. Your job is to help me get right, not to start sinning yourself.
Right.
Which is basically what you're doing.
Yeah, I think too often we rely too much on the men of the cloth and the women of the cloth. They are the conduit between, man and God. But honestly, actually, let me take that back. In my understanding is they're more like a teacher. You know what I mean? They can teach you things that you may not know, but ultimately you got to do the work. You know what I mean? The teacher's going to give you the lesson plan. But unless you go and you do the work,
You apply
and
it.
you use, you apply it, you practice, then, it's not going to even matter. And I'll be honest with you, again, I'm not a Christian person, but I am someone who knows that we ain't here by ourselves. So you can take that for whatever you want it to take it. Don't judge me.
Okay.
But the truth of the matter is no God, no Allah, no Buddha, no creator, no energy, no whatever you want to call it, that I've ever studied that would say that you can't baptize a child because the parents are not a way that I would accept. For example, you can go off of the Bible and the Quran all you want, but you don't know God like that. So if you think God has beef with your gay friend, that's between God and your gay friend. It ain't got nothing to do with you, especially when we talking about children. We talking about kids, man. You really, really gonna sit here and say we can't baptize a kid because what if you were the child of a person that's on death row for killing 1 million people? What if it was Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker? What if Jeffrey Dahmer had a kid? What if, John Wayne Gacy had a kid? We not gonna baptize their children because their fathers was crazy people who killed people? Come on, man.
Well, I think.
And no disrespect, I'm not comparing gay people to mass murders.
No.
That's not what I'm doing. But the logic that I'm saying is, we going to say that we're not going to take care of a child because of the sins of the father?
Well, The Bible, has a lot of stories, per se. And I am, a Christian. I'm Baptist down. But every one of the stories, regardless of the heartbreak and the headaches that we may go through, trials and tribulations, God has been very consistent with saying love. Love thy neighbor, treat yourself as you will treat others, how you want them to treat you. Mm-hmm. It's never been, well, love only these people, love these people on this certain day. Okay, well, don't really love them because we don't really know too much about them. Those fundamentals have always been consistent. And like you said, it's probably in the Quran, it's probably in Buddha, it's probably in all the other sanctified religions, and they always teach about love. Now, what I don't like is here you are, you seem like you're punishing a baby, mm-hmm. innocence that has absolutely nothing to do with his or her parents' decision, mm-hmm. whether they're, I would say, well, I'm not sure if they're doing adoption or whatever, but, mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. No one can pick your family. You can't even pick your own family. Mm-hmm. And for anybody in the religious community to decide who your family is, that's a problem. Just like we can't have state and government and religion all in the same room mm-hmm. at the same time, then that's how it needs to be even in our own religious communities. Mm-hmm. You just can't decide, this is what we're going to do today, this is what we're going to do tomorrow, this is only good for these people. As long as we don't tell them, they're not going to know. That's just wrong. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's going to be a reason, Marcus, why a lot of individuals are going to turn away from religion.
It's already happening.
Because of just mm-hmm. all these obstacles.
It's already happening.
Mm-hmm.
They've done studies that said that the world is far less religious now than it was. And, folks like me, we know, respectfully, we know we upset our families. You know what I'm saying? We know our families are not happy to hear, that we've decided, to not be of the Christian faith. But the reality is you got to be what you got to be, man. You got to follow your own path.
But Marcus, even though I'm a Christian and you're not,
you still love me.
I still love you.
You're my sister.
I love you.
You're my sister.
Love you to death.
No doubt.
I mean, I can sit in a room and talk to you and break bread and share drinks and hugs and laugh and cry and fuss and cuss. But at the end of the day, if something were to happen to me, I truly believe that it doesn't take you to be a Christian. I think that you will help me. And vice versa.
No, that's true.
Absolutely.
And
that's you too as well.
And I think that's the essence. I think that we oftentimes we get too caught up in, I'm a religious person. I'm a Baptist. I'm a Christian. I'm a Catholic. I'm a 5%er. I'm in the nation of gods and earths. So because you are this or you are that, I ain't feeling you no more. Or you in the nation of Islam. So you down with Farrakhan? Or I ain't fooling with you. Too often we get caught up in that kind of stuff. But to know a person's heart is to know a person's soul. And you can't think that you know a person based upon their religion. I'll give you an example. We know that Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, were not the best of friends. But I think that if you study them, you know that they had profound respect for each other. You can see it in the photograph that they took together in March of 1964 in the Capitol. And you can tell in their rhetoric, particularly during the year of 1964 when Malcolm had left the Nation of Islam, and the subsequent years of Martin Luther King's life after Malcolm's assassination, you can see the respect that they have for each other. Ain't no half step on Marcus J. Live from the den of LegacyInternetRadio.com. 804-402-2893. I had to enunciate that part. All right, we're going to take our very, very first break of the night. And when we come back, we got some more What the Hell, and then we're going to end the show later on when SY leads us in her segment where we're going to talk about a tease. We ain't going to tell y'all. But in the next segment...
I was going to say it, y'all, but I can't, sorry.
Nah, man, we teasing that one. Just give him a little bit. Give him a little bit. Just a tiny itty bitty. Don't give the big piece.
Okay, how about...
Oh gosh, I give you a little piece. If you watch Walking Dead last night, then you're gonna dig this segment. If
That was on my little piece.
If you yeah, oh my God,
She took it away.
yeah,
see?
it is. That's a tease. That's a tease for your ass. All right. When we come back, how did the president of the United States suffer the kind of embarrassment that normal folks deal with every single day? A fight in a Baltimore school, and what this Russian dude said about Venus and Serena gonna really piss y'all off. Marcus J. S.Y. and my sister Toyana, she's in the building for the first time in a while. We're happy to have her, and we're happy to have you. Stay with us. Ain't no hashtag with Marcus J. Be back in a few minutes.